So a lot of people have been asking me for this, which is a timeline or order of future character release for Kuroko's Possible, and today I'm going to try to address that question. Now, a lot of people have been referring to the Japanese server character release timeline in order to guess what's going to coming up next for global. Personally, I'm not actually going to do that because I don't think the Japanese server is the best reference point, and instead I'm actually going to refer to the Chinese server instead, which I'm going to show you guys here. Now, the reason why I'm referring to the Chinese server rather than the Japanese server is that kind of like all of the evidence so far on global seems to align a lot more closely with the Chinese server. So just to give you guys some of the example on the Chinese server, which is only launched July last year, so only 9 months before the global launch, it started off with all 5 of the Generation Miracle characters, okay? And also the gacha system, the pity is 120, just like global, which is very different to the Japanese server, where the pity was at 200 and also the drop rate is a lot lower. Okay, so from gacha point of view, it's already very close to the Chinese server if we're talking about global right now. And then the next thing is going to be the classification of character. So for example, Himuro was also battle pass character on the Chinese server. That wasn't the case on the Japanese server. And then also, for example, the definition of Zone Kogmi on the Japanese server, Zone Kogmi and also SP Kuroko or Miracle Kuroko, they were considered in the same banner pool as other Generation Miracle characters. However, on the Chinese server, they are actually going to be in the same banner as Zhong Aomine. And in fact, right now on global, if you happen to have Zhong Kogami and you try to reset him, you would then realize the talent card you get back can be used for Zhong Aomine as well. Okay, so all of those evidence just seem to suggest that the global server is going to be very closely aligned to the Chinese server rather than the Japanese server. And in fact, we can already kind of tell that from the character release order. Okay, so right now I'm on the blog post for the Chinese server of the game, and you can see here at global launch they also have Zhong Kogmi. And if we take a look at the next few characters that was released, the first one the Chinese server had was Osubo, okay, which was also what we had first. And then afterwards, it went into Zhong Amine as the next character, okay? If you were following the Japanese server, other people would have told you that SP Midorima was the first Zhong character or SP character coming out. However, on the Chinese server, that was Zhong Aomine, and that's also the case on global server so far. And then the next character that was released was gonna be let me just run New Way as well. Okay, that's also the one of the early character we had on global so far already. Now, as you can see, there is actually going to be some slight difference because on the Chinese server, Osubo and Liu Wei didn't actually overlap in terms of their banner timeline. However, on the global server, there is actually a 1 week overlap between the two characters. So the banner order doesn't seem to be exactly identical to the Chinese server. Another good example is that, for example, if you take a look at the Chinese server, Miracle Kuroko wasn't actually available at launch. It was only added after Zhong Amine. However, obviously for the global server, he himself and also Zhong Kogmi were both available on day one. So there are still going to be some differences to the Chinese server. So even though what I personally think is that the Chinese server is a better reference point to the Japanese server, it's still not going to be exactly, it may not exactly be the way global is going to plan out as well, okay? So all I'm going to do is just show you all of the blog posts so you know exactly the release order on the Chinese server side, which I personally think is a better reference point than the Japanese server, but do bear that in mind. This may not be exactly identical to the way global will release their characters. Okay, now let me go through this blog post so you guys know exactly the upcoming order for the characters on the Chinese server. Now, I will share this link in the comment section as well if you guys want to check out yourself. It's just that sometimes the image actually displays, let's say, like a character's birthday or certain events rather than release a new character. So that's kind of what I'm just going to talk us through. So it's easier for you guys to actually know which ones actually denote a new character being released. Okay, so the next upcoming character, which I'm almost certain will be the case for global as well, it's actually going to be Tenpin Kyoshi. And the reason for this is that he's actually a battle pass character. Okay, so in this game or on the Chinese server, all of the Uncrowned Kings actually came as part of the Battle Pass. So right now, Himuro's Battle Pass is going to finish at the end of March. So for the 1st of April, we should be getting a brand new Battle Pass. And Tenpin Kyoshi is likely going to be the next character. So he wouldn't have a banner. He would just be part of the Battle Pass. And eventually, once the Battle Pass finished, he would then be added into the same banner as the base version of Generation Miracle, which should be the way Himuro is also going to be as well. I just don't know whether or not they will be added to the banner straight away after Battle Pass finish, or there will be a bit of a lag. Okay, but the next one coming up should be Tenpin Kyoshi. Then the next one we're going to get afterwards is going to be SP Midorima, which you guys can probably already see here, right? That's also going to be the skin we'll be getting. So SP Midorima is going to be the next Zhong-ish version character we'll be getting, which is kind of similar to the Japanese server order as well. On the Japanese server, he was the first character, but obviously on the Chinese one, Zhong Aimina was the first one, and the SP Midorima was the second one. Then afterwards, it doesn't have a picture here, but I can tell you guys anyway if you actually do the translation. But basically here, it basically have like a maintenance logo, but actually this was also the introduction of a new character, which is Kotaro. So that's the small forward from Rakuten. He is also once again on Crown King, so he will be coming as part of the Battle Pass. So on the global version, he should be the Battle Pass character for May. All right. Then the next one we're going to get is going to be Zhong Murasaki Bara. Okay, so that's kind of the next SP or Zhong-ish character. Then afterwards, the next character we'll be getting is, let me just quickly scroll through all of the events. The next character we're now going to get is going to be Chihiro. Now, Chihiro is a very interesting one because he's actually a wishlist character. So I'm not actually too sure whether or not the game will wait that long to add him in, because our first two wishlist characters, Osubo and also Liu Wei, their banners actually overlap. So it's going to be quite interesting to say whether or not the game will actually wait that long before releasing Chihiro. Now, in all honesty, Chihiro is probably one of the worst characters in this game. Like, he is basically just like a more expensive version of base version of Kuroko. We're not even talking about the SP version of Kuroko, it's just base version of Kuroko, but he's so much more expensive to build and doesn't really offer too much extra. So no matter when he's going to be released, I think he can be safely skip anyway, but he's going to be a wishlist character, okay? Then the next one we're going to have should be the next Battle Pass character, which is going to be Hanamiya. Now, he's probably the best dealer in this game, okay? So that will be the Battle Pass character. For us, that should be the Battle Pass character in June. Assuming we have one Battle Pass every month. I'm going to assume that's going to be the duration of Battle Pass, but we will need to wait and see it as well. Okay, then the next one we're going to get is going to be Perfect Copy Kisei, okay? He's also very interesting. Unlike the base version of Kisei, he basically can copy other characters' move. Perfect Copy Kisei basically uses a combination of other Generation Miracle characters' moves, okay? So he's also a very interesting character to play. Does require quite a bit of a skill cap if you want to use him correctly, because he just needs to have so many different combos so you remember and when to use in what situation. So that's going to be the next premium character, which is going to be SP version or Perfect Copy Kisei. Then afterwards, the next character is going to be... all of those are just skins, so we can ignore that. Okay, so the next one would then be the next Battle Pass character, which is going to be this Shooting God from Rakuten. Personally, I don't actually know much about him, but the same with Shooting God is that in this game, there aren't actually that many different Shooting Gods, so if you're actually playing that role, you kind of need to have him as another option, and if you're not playing Shooting God, you can just skip him altogether. And like I said, he's a Battle Pass character as well, so eventually he will be added to the base to the same banner as other base copies of Generation Miracle. Okay, then we are going to have the last SP character for Generation Miracle, which is going to be SP Akashi. He is basically kind of like a dual personality character. He both have a point guard role and also like a small forward role. So depending on the situation, he can switch between the two roles to play to your team's advantage or team composition. Okay, so that's going to be SP Akashi. Then the next one we're going to get is, let me just quickly check. You can see there are loads of events in the middle, which is why it's a bit hard to navigate if you don't know the character order. Then we're going to get the last game character, which in this game is going to be last game Kagami, okay? So that's now it comes the introduction of the last game era. And last game characters are going to have a totally different banner to the Zone characters banner as well, okay? Then after LG Cockney, we should now be moving to the LG era. So the next one we're gonna see is. Oh, actually, no. The next one we're gonna see is gonna be the last character on the wish list banner, which is basically this power forward from the team that Murasaki Barra plays. I forgot the name now. Oh, Yosen, it says here literally. So he's the power forward for Yosen, and he's normally just used as a screener. So basically, if you're going to play with a teammate who shoots a 3-pointer, then he's going to be one of the best team competition for that because he's the best screener in the game. Okay, and he's a wishlist character, so pretty cheap to build as well. So we have that, and then the next character we're gonna have, yeah, now we're just moving completely into the LG era. So now we're gonna get basically the American team from LG. So now it's Jason Silver. And then afterwards, I think that's actually as far as this blog post goes. So, but at this point, kind of once we get to the LG character era, it kind of then synced up to the Japanese server in the sense that all of the other known last game characters are more or less already released. So at this point forward, I feel like you can just refer to the Japanese character order because it should be in sync at this point. Okay, but up until the last game, I feel like the Chinese server characters are going to be a better reference point to the Japanese server. But yeah, so that's going to be the banner timeline for all of the future characters. Let me know what you guys think and also which character you'll be saving up for.